This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
Oh, wait a minute. Before we start the report, I got to put Brooklyn Rob there. He goes, I put my croquet mallet down long enough to make a donation. Now back to buying the dips and staring at the ocean. Nice job, Brooklyn Rob. All right, let's talk a little basketball. Ira Winderman is ready to go. How you feeling this morning, my man?
I'm feeling like someone, like I want to say I was like Nostradamus, but when it came to Udonis's non-announcement yesterday about coming back for his 20th season, I think we saw that one coming from the get-go, from his comments in the offseason. And now we know who the Heat are, that unless there's a Mitchell trade or a Durant trade or something smaller for Turner or Collins or Barnes or Crowder, this is your roster, because this locks them in under the tax, Big O. And I just posted this story at sunsentinel.com, really until March. The financials for the roster are pretty much locked in now, with Udonis being last man in, 14-man roster, two-way players. Let's go.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. And listen, in the end, I don't really know what this does for the team. It is the policeman in the locker room. I don't think that really Spo's that kind of guy. So it helps him, I think, in that locker room. But I mean, how many times do you really have a 15th spot that you have to hang on to?
Well, I'm going to give you the perfect example.
And I guess that's the issue right there.
The perfect example I would give you is what you were talking about just before I came on, and the Dolphins' second string and third string quarterback. Let's be honest, Big O. We saw this last year when Tua went out. If Tua is not available, it doesn't matter who steps in. It goes to crap anyway. If the Heat have to use their 15th man, God help us. But Philadelphia and Milwaukee and Boston and maybe even Brooklyn are just push ahead of you. So I know sports fans, especially in these days with the internet and 3-hour shows like the Big O and the podcast and all that, we can debate every position on the team, and you will do that even when the Dolphins cut down to 80. I mean, it's just what, and 65. It's what we do. But the reality is, if we're debating the Dolphins' second and third string quarterback, if we're debating the Miami Heat's 14th and 15th man, we're in a completely different place than you want to be anyway. So if the Heat were playing their 15th man, whether it's Markieff Morris, whether it's Udonis Haslem, whether it's Hayward Highsmith, you're in trouble. So you know what? If that's your greatest concern, that someone's taking the last roster spot, you're in a pretty good place. And let's face it, the Heat bench was very good last year. Tyler Hero, 6th man of the year. That's before even Victor Oladipo had his first Heat training camp and his first NBA training camp in 4 seasons. So good for you, D. He'll give us some good sound bites. He'll help the young kids along. There are a lot of young kids. And you move forward. At least now, for the first time in 2 decades, there's a finality. We know this is the farewell tour. We won't do this again next summer. You can develop someone in Sioux Falls and tell them, hey, that Udonis spot's going to be available next season. You need to push for that. There will be a spot for another young player. At least we know where things stand right now.
Does he transition immediately to coaching next year? Do you expect
Oh, hell
that?
no. He said he's not coaching. He said he wants nothing to do with that and having to be there every
Front
day.
office? Scouting?
No, he's putting the screws to Mickey Arison. He wants an ownership stake. And this gets interesting because UD is as smart of a businessman as probably 2 people I look up to financially, and that's Derek Jeter and Orlando Alzugaray. And he's going to work out a deal for himself.
Remember what a stretch on that second one, dude.
Okay, remember the Derek Jeter deal, how he bought him for $25 million and then gave himself a $5 million salary for 5 years. So all of a sudden, you do the math, the man was putting in nothing. That's what Udonis wants. He wants about a $20 million.
I don't have that skill set. How could you put me in that list?
You know
That's
what?
skills right there, baby.
As you said, if you buy the dips well enough, I'll put you in that area right now. So Udonis keeps putting out there, and it's really tough for Mickey Arison. It's been very familial, the Heat ownership. What people don't understand is after Pat Riley got his Heat ownership stake, he cashed out years ago on that. And it's a family thing. And even the minority owners don't have the same control they had earlier. It's Mickey Arison, it's Nick Arison, it's in the family. But Udonis has a whole year to lobby right now. And to make it a little uncomfortable for Mickey, that's what he wants to do. And why does he want to do that? Because he saw Dwayne Wade do that with the Utah Jazz. And he's basically saying,
and on the flip side, Miami, as in Mickey, you kind of got a little butthurt that
yes,
Wade went to Utah. Well, don't be butthurt if Udonis goes with the Las Vegas expansion team or something.
exactly. And UD knows it's a bad look and knows if he goes somewhere else and he gets a stake in the Memphis Grizzlies, it just, that'll be two legends who were left. So to be curious, I'm also curious how the Heat's going to do the UD banner raising. Is it during the season? Is it part of this celebration? Or does it come, down the road, something like that? Because
we should do a Wade-like thing, a 2 or 3 day thing for UD. It should be the same thing, man. It should be celebrated.
And maybe that's all next preseason. You can juice the preseason to sales. You can make it, the Udonis Haslem month down here next October, do something like that. One thing I'm curious about, Big O, there's 3 things that are still going to happen for the Heat.
By the way, we should elevate his Miami High jersey also in the AAA.
Put them all up there. Hey, you know me. Put up the UF jersey, and there's one that he's spending the season in France. I'm for that. We know LeBron's number 6 is going to get retired. We know UD's 40 is going to get retired. But eventually, if this is the classic home of the Dolphins, and Big O, you know this every time that you go to Hard Rock, you see the Dolphin statues there for the icons of the franchise. Is it just a Dwayne Wade statue, or is it a Wade and Haslem statue of the 2 guys who started in 2003 to bring this franchise to another level? Because you know what? Say what you want about Joe Robbie. It was his vision and foresight with the team, with bringing in Don Shula, with building his own stadium that really made the Dolphins the next level team.
And a stadium that can be reconstructed for baseball and soccer. He was very smart.
And even left the possibility for a roof or a half roof. I mean, he did all that. Or should the statue out front be one of Pat Riley with his arms around Dwayne on the left and UD on the right as sort of the era that got this building built, that made the Heat who they are, that changed everything?
I'd give them each a statue. I'd give each guy their own statue.
You got the money there, sure.
So no, he's got damn right. Mickey Harrison's got the money, bro.
So I really am curious.
Given all the taxes on the boats, baby, build the statues
right there. You know what? I'll make it perfect for Mickey. Have floating statues outside there in Biscayne Bay, right across from the arena. So maybe you'll come up with something, little spotlights on them. Yeah, you know what? You and me, Big O, we're very good about spending Mickey's money. So maybe I'll float that in my Sunday column.
I think Mickey, I got to tell you something, Mickey. I think it's time. It's time to build a Miami Heat Hall of Fame.
I agree.
Right there, and start putting in all the rich history that you've developed already. And those statues should be surrounding that Hall of Fame. So that way fans have another reason to go out there to the arena to go visit the Hall of Fame. Hey, we do it with the Pacers. Anybody that goes out there and you go to the Pacers, you go to a Pacers game, it's a freaking experience, dude.
Yes, and you can put it on the concourse. It's a tight concourse in the arena there, but you do something like that, and all of a sudden you do arena tours and you salute your history. We have that downstairs. Most people can't get downstairs. Big O, when you come to the interview room in the locker room, they have their championship alley. They have all the pictures. They have Posey and Walker and all those guys. But maybe something more for the public. Yeah, I think that would be a really good idea. So we'll spend some more of Mickey's money. I'm all in.
All right, Mickey, let's go, baby. Make it rain. Miami Heat Hall of Fame and statues for UD and for Wade. And we're gonna get a Riley one eventually too, right?
Sure,
so we definitely have to get all of those. All right. So where do we stand? I saw Shams writing about the latest Knicks offer for Mitchell and all that stuff. So what's going to happen? Because we're not hearing a damn thing right now overall. And are we just waiting for Kevin Durant to create some big-ass stink?
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to how hard and how forcefully Kevin Durant pushes. And I think that push, it's been very subtle. Let's look at the timing this, Big O. June 30th, right before free agency, Durant comes out and demands a trade. Something happens, it revs up and slows down. So a month later, late July, early August, he reiterates, now I want the coach out, I want the GM. He does that push. So I think there'll be stepped up pushes. Basically, Kevin Durant is asking through his people, How far do we have to take this? How uncomfortable do you want to make this? Step 1, June 30th, ahead of free agency. Hey, do it now. Midsummer, hey, I want my coach and GM out. I can only imagine the bombshell around Labor Day when he adds something else in there. That this franchise is a go-nowhere thing. He maybe attacks the owner, Joe Tsai. Then you get to a point where you have to do something. And I think Pat Riley's sitting back there and going, okay, they might not be taking any of these offers right now, or they're going to have to do something. I don't need to blink yet. Same thing with Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell with the Utah Jazz, they traded away Rudy Gobert, their all-star, their all-NBA center, for a bunch of draft picks. So Donovan Mitchell's sitting there going, hey, maybe they flipped those draft picks for someone good for me to play alongside. But as each week goes on, and it becomes more and more obvious that all Danny Ainge wants is to collect more picks and sort of be Sam Presti 2.0 and deal with them all down the road, I don't think Donovan Mitchell is going to be very comfortable going into camp. So yeah, it looks like the Knicks deal is the best for Mitchell. It looks like the Celtics deal is the best for Durant. But yet the Nets and the Jazz haven't blinked yet. When do those other teams go, you know what, we got a season to get ready for. We ain't doing this. And Pat Riley goes, hey, here's your second best offer. Now what? This will go all the way to the start of camp.
Wow. All right. So then you're expecting. So Sean Marks doesn't have. I mean, if you're Sean Marks, don't you feel like all hell's going to break loose? Don't you want to try to avoid this? Because if he goes, if Kevin Durant loses his crap, then I get, I know it sounds crazy to say that value will be lost, but it does become that much harder to make a deal because now the disgruntled star is openly talking about how disgruntled he is. And then the situation gets that much uglier for Brooklyn to start any season.
And it comes down to strength of ownership. Does Joe Tsai draw a line not only on trades, but with Kevin Durant? Enough already. Enough. We're not doing anything. You're not forcing our hand. It can get uncomfortable. You'll have less than your best available roster to start the season. But hey, we're going to stand for something. Just like Mickey Arison has always stood behind Pat Riley, has always stood behind Eric Spoelstra. They've always been aligned. So you're right, Big O. Will we see that fissure? Will we see that crack? Then you'll see what's going to happen. Look, the Nets have never been an organization of strength. They have flitted through coaches. Remember that from PJ Carlissimo, and then even after that, they had Kenny Atkinson come in. They didn't stand by Kenny Atkinson.
He didn't. I thought he did a good job.
He's a very, very good coach. That's why Charlotte wanted them. That's why Golden State retained him. Even Jason Kidd forced his way out of there. Remember, he wanted equity. He went to Milwaukee instead as coach. So is that franchise ever going to have stability? I think that's the crossroad right now for Joe Tsai, and we'll see how that plays out. Is the organization going to be stronger than the player, or inmates still running asylum? We'll find that out in the next month because, man, I want this split screen like you and I have right now. I want one screen to be showing Jazz Media Day and one screen to be showing Nets Media Day, because that will be a crap storm when those players are asked to, well, what do you think? There's going to be a trade? Is your roster going to be the same? What's going on here?
You don't want every day. And it'll be every day now.
Yeah.
That's the start of every day of your life in a Jazz and in a Nets uniform.
And
now.
Throughout the preseason and leading right up to the start of the regular season. So you know what? I think the Heat are sitting back going, okay, we can do this. We'll wait. We're in no rush. We're the defending regular season Eastern Conference champions. We play every game to win. We'll find a way to win enough games until everything is sorted out.
And one more thing. Everyone else has to answer that question too on your team.
Yes.
So it just becomes.
That's what I mean. Yeah. 15 players put in a very rough spot, especially with the Jazz. Because if the Jazz are rebuilding, Bogdanovich is going to be out of there. Mike Conley is going to be out of there. Those players don't need to put up with that. And then the Nets, is Kyrie going to show up? Is he going to show up for every day of camp? Or does he have other business Tom Brady like to attend to? The difference is Tom Brady with his championships can do whatever the hell he wants for a week or two during the preseason. If Kyrie goes AWOL, oh my God.
Well, force him to take a monkeypox vaccine, and he won't show up. That's it. Just tell him he has to take a vaccine.
There you go. We'll
and
change
he's
going to
run in the other direction. That's all.
Exactly.
Just tell him, hey, it's monkeypox this year. Oh no, I'm out of here. And so that's it. It's all good. By the way, that thing is ugly. I don't know, man. That thing is scary. That monkeypox stuff. Wow. All right, what are you working on in the Sun Sentinel?
Well, the story I told you about is just to go really briefly, for the Heat to stay under the luxury tax, once Udonis formally signs his contract, they'll have about $200,000 left under the tax. The NBA day rate is the same that Big O makes every day he shows up for work. $6,000 a day is the minimum salary. So under that salary constraint, the Heat cannot add another player. The 15th you're allowed to add until the final month of the season. So this could be it for now. They don't have wiggle room. The only non-guaranteed contract on the roster is Haywood Highsmith, who they're still high on as a possible big minutes player at power forward. So as I wrote in the Sun Sentinel this morning, tomorrow in your newspaper, it's basically all or nothing for the Heat. It's either this is it and they'll move forward, or there'll be a mega deal that'll completely change the payroll. So that's online right now in tomorrow's paper. I also wrote in my Ask Ira today, who does the torch get passed to? We now know there will be a passing of the torch next season. Udonis Haslem, after 20 years, after the last decade plus as captain, will be gone. Does it become Jimmy's team? Or is he too old for that at 33? Does it become Kyle Lowry's team? Or is he pretty much the face of the Raptors? You can't be the face of two franchises. Or does he become what Bam Adebayo wants, where he has said, I want to be Heat lifer, I want to be the face of the franchise. Well, you can't have a face of the franchise also pegged in the middle of trade rumors. So it'll be curious to see how they handle Bam Adebayo. But if you were to put me on the spot right now and say who is going to be the face of the franchise after Udonis Haslem, I think Bam Adebayo, with his big personality. Tyler's a quiet guy. I think Bam would be a fitting face of the franchise. And yeah, I could see him eventually being the next jersey a decade down the road, because he came into this organization. He's only been a Heat player. And his buy-in on the defensive end is as much of a buy-in as any player has given the team, where Eric Spoelstra said, I want you to do X, Y, and Z. And Bam Adebayo has said, I'll do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, he's a character guy. There's no doubt about that. So he's definitely a perfect Heat player. I know we're asking a little more from him, and maybe we're asking a little too much of him. But what he does provide, it's undeniable how much he means to the entire, not just defense, but also the offense too, at the same time, because he does a lot of the stuff that helps that offense go, setting picks and helping them out in every way possible. So yeah, Bam's a quality guy. There's no doubt about it. I just want him to take that next step. If he can do that, then he steps into that Zoe and that Hardaway and that Wade zone that you're just, you're complete as a franchise.
A build around guy. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Follow him on Twitter at Ira Heatbeat, and catch his work at the South Florida Sun Sentinel, and 3 times a week here, of course. And you'll catch him on Wednesday with our Red Recover Inside the Paint show. Ira, as always, thank you, my brother. Appreciate you.
Back on Friday for an Acura Pembroke Pines report. And I think Wednesday will be interesting, because as long as there's rumors and there's fish and chum out there with Durant and Mitchell, the Heat will be mentioned some way. So we'll catch you at 9 a.m. at our redrecover.com Inside the Paint report. Thank you, Big O.
Yes, sir. Thank you. There you go. Ira Winderman. You are now out of the Heat zone.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.